Tim, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Hello, everyone. This is the July 16th, 2021 Art Alliance for Contemporary Glass Meetup. And today we have a special treat for us in the sense that we are going to be presenting artists from Argentina and Spain. And I first learned about this unbelievable burgeoning program they have down there by the 21st Century Glass page. We looked on there and noticed that the third largest country as members was Argentina. So we reached out to Maria and she started getting people to post, and my God, I felt like that we had discovered an entire cache of American and Czechoslovakian studio glass people at their height. So you're going to see a lot of amazing pieces, all this in this parallel countries, bringing forth. I think they've been doing it for the last 20 years, which puts them as pure 21st century glass folks. And Maria has shown me she is the educator of all. As we go through, there's going to be quite a bit. She's going to be taking over. Lucia, who is here with us, who speaks better English than Maria, is going to help us with translating what's going on. And also Maria and Aaron, Shay, and Habitat have a arrangement too. If any of the pieces are like, they have an arrangement. You can talk to Maria or Aaron about any of the pieces you think are great, and they'll have more information on each of those. Okay, so I am going to turn this over to Maria and to Lucia, and go at it, ladies.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Tim, and the Art Alliance for Contemporary Glass for this wonderful invitation to bring the world of Ibero-American glass to a new audience. In time of pandemic, when virtually has become so present and strategic, it's gratifying to be connected and show what we are passionate about without distance. Today, I want to introduce you to a selection of artists from Argentina and Spain, some established and other emerging, each with a particular journey and imprint. Many pieces that will be here for sale. If you want to know more about the work or about the artist, please email me or Aaron, Shay, at Habitat Galleries. I want to thank Artista Lucia Warmeister, who will be accompanying me for the translation and who will be presenting her work. Thank you, Aaron, for his support. Thanks.
Okay. Go ahead and share your screen.
Yes. Wait a minute.
It's that green button at the bottom. You with us, Maria?
Yes.
There we go. There we go. Okay.
Go, Lucia.
Is someone going to speak, Maria?
No, Lucia.
Lucia, okay, you're going to speak?
Lucia?
Lucia?
She probably just needs to unmute.
Oh, unmute Lucia. Lucia, yes, thank you.
Okay, yes, here we are.
Okay, go for it.
Okay, we're gonna start with Sylvia Levinson, that you might know. And Sylvia Levinson was born in Buenos Aires, Argentina. She has been living in Italy since 1981, when she emigrated due to the military dictatorship of the time. Sylvia believes her work is an expression of her soul. She uses glass, not for its natural beauty, but for its potential as a narrative medium. One of Sylvia's greatest passions and a huge contribution to the glass community is teaching. Black humor and sarcasm are present in her works. Sylvia is an artist who, through her creations in glass.
Ahí se le tapó la voz.
Exploring family and social relations.
Lucia, we're hardly hearing you. You're coming in and out. We don't know what's wrong.
Okay, let's see now. I'm sorry.
Yes, please. Yeah.
Yes, Sylvia is an artist who, through her creations in glass, invites us to reflect on profound themes that sums us all. Exploring family and social relationships, childhood-related issues, and how uncomfortable it can be to be a woman are some of her concerns. Her work has been exhibited around the world and is part of important collections. Alejandro Herrera. He grew up in Mendoza, Argentina, with imposing Andes Mountains in the background. As a child, he spent hours playing in his father's stained glass workshop, and there his passion for glass was born. Paragliding is another of his passions. It allows him to feel free to fly over the mountains and observe beautiful landscapes. It is in those mountains where Alejandro looks for the stones to create his sculptures and thus achieve a perfect fusion. With extensive training at Corning, he is one of the most prominent glass sculptors in Argentina. He's inspired by the shapes of the universe, mountains, stones, valleys, and rivers, the colors of the sky. But he can also be inspired by dreams that are influenced by a lifestyle that seeks a more subtle and spiritual universe, with a message that invites us to stop and meditate about it. Alejandro's art represents transparency and the universe created by the glass colors with their unique three-dimensional depth. He comes to his work from a deep transcendental relationship between glass, metal, and stones. Ana Laura Quintana. Argentine artist Ana Laura Quintana expresses herself through the patte de verre technique. Ana Laura is always exploring and experimenting new ways to achieve this traditional technique, adapting it to her physical condition. Due to spinal problems, she underwent numerous surgeries and cannot lift weight. In her search for a technique that would allow her to continue working with glass, she found in the patte de verre the best way to express her own fragility. She likes to experiment with this technique, trying to find ways other than the traditional ones to achieve the sculptural pieces. She creates patte de verre vessels with bullseye glass powder and liquid gold. The result is very delicate pieces that have the spontaneity of a given moment due to the natural forms and folds. They can also float and produce harmonious sounds as they touch each other. Her works are designed mostly with curved and round lines that transport us to nature with their movement and sense of containment. Andrea da Ponte. Andrea da Ponte is one of the Argentine glass artists with the greatest international recognition. The Corning Museum of Glass recently acquired one of her pieces. She's passionate about teaching and sharing her knowledge with her students in Argentina and worldwide, creating new spaces for communication and experimentation with unique methods that she develops in her research. She uses the physical characteristics of glass to speak of a timeless world of constant movement and to relate it to an iron containment. The narrative of her pieces has many layers of interpretation. Her quest to perfect the line prompted her to investigate various methods. She developed an experimental technique of transferring the image to glass, achieving a full color image on glass with photographic quality, interior and exterior volumes, obtaining multiple readings through the glass mass. She uses various techniques such as casting glass, patte de verre, glass blowing, and technique of transferring colored digital images to glass. she is currently investigating luminescence. Ruben Fazzani. Ruben was born in Buenos Aires, Argentina, and as a child, he grew up playing in the workshop of his iron worker father. At the age of 22, he began to study ceramics, and in 1987, he graduated from the National School of Ceramics. The decision to dedicate himself to artistic production full-time and take this activity as a job marked a very important course in his career. In the mid-90s, he began experimenting with glass. In 2000, he obtained the National Prize in Ceramics, among other important awards. The materials in his works are clay, glass, wood, plastic, metal, and other objects. Fazzani seeks synthesis. Simply bending a glass may be enough for him. Recycling plays an important role in his work, forming part of the artistic event itself. The techniques he uses the most are casting and fused flowed glass, sometimes combining them with each other. He works on a large scale. He's interested in his work having weight, being firm and forceful. He's the best-selling art and glass artist in the United States. Claudia Goldsman, she was born and lives in Buenos Aires, Argentina, a visual artist who for 25 years has chosen glass as a means of expression. Claudia investigates the intangible in human relationships through sculptures that reveal the balance between life and death. Her current work focuses on the tragedy of migrant exodus as a possible way to address complex and sensitive conflicts on a massive scale. Crowded bodies that tighten borders and look for loopholes to live. She is interested in glass as a symbolic material of emotional memory and for the opposition. It hovers between what it appears to be and what it represents. Her sculptures are cast with bullseye glass, usually. Many of her pieces are included in the collection of Museo Nacional del Vidrio in Argentina and the Museo de Arte Vidrio in Alcorcón, Spain, and Museo del Vetro in Altare, Italy. Natalia Gerskovich. She's an Argentine artist who has lived and worked in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, for more than 20 years. Since her arrival in that city, she has been shocked by the number of people living on the streets, especially children. This is naturalized in Brazilian society. Nobody is surprised. It is part of the daily life. A poor child, usually Black, walks invisible through the streets of any Brazilian city. With her works, Natalia challenges us as a society to observe the invisible. She shows us how cruel and inhuman the collective attitude of ignoring these children can be. Natalia models in clay and then with a casting technique creates her sculptures. Her work, Invisible Children, shows how the glass achieves the fourth dimension. She speaks of a situation of vulnerability, not only helps to visualize the concept, but also shows the strength and presence of the materiality of glass that is impossible to ignore. Pablo Shapira. Artist Pablo Shapira lives and works in Buenos Aires. His first major contact with glass was in his father's antique business. At 17, he began to study the restoration of art objects and performing arts in parallel. He lived between the alchemy of art and the magic of theater. His love for his country runs deep and he is reflected in every of his works. Politics, music, literature, and love are themes of inspiration for this artist. Combining old, new, and fused glass, accompanied with metal, wood, cement, and mosaics, Shapira builds the stained glass and sculptures of it. He also makes installations and large stained glass windows for architecture, another important facet of his teaching work. Edgardo de Bortoli. He was born in a town in the suburbs of Buenos Aires, Argentina. He spent 7 years of childhood admiring the stained glass windows of his school church, that is, his first memory of glass. It has been 20 years since he began working with glass. He started with stained glass, and after going through all the techniques, he specialized in fusing industrial waste glass. Edgardo collects from a local blown glass factory the threads that remain when the blowers remove the canes from the furnace. These threads are fused in the kiln to give it the desired shape. The artist developed the technique experimentally, looking for volumes and complex shapes. De Bortoli seeks to express the vulnerability of the human being. He walks the streets of Buenos Aires, takes photographs that he later captures in his works. Through these images that show a subsistence of extreme drama, Edgardo wants to generate compassion and connection with the other. We are all vulnerable, and life can change us from one moment to the next. You cannot desensitize the bad without canceling all the good that comes with being in life. His work is included in museums and collections, public and private, in Canada, the United States, Italy, Uruguay, and Argentina. Mariella Demaio. The artist, Mariella Demaio, was born in Buenos Aires, Argentina. She studied advertising, art, and glass techniques. She's inspired by emotions, fear, confinement, feelings, energy. With her works, she seeks to recreate the invisible in objects, to investigate the mind and questions. Glass is the perfect metaphor to represent these concepts. The installation, Support the Imperfect, seeks to invite the viewers to think about what limits them, what ties them, what chains them, what they see when they look at each other, how they are reflected. They are seen whole or in parts. These are all questions that the artist asks herself in the creative process, and that today she continues to work and investigate the materiality of sensations. And this is me, that's my work, so I'll speak in first person. So the birth of Venus that I'm showing here is an installation in which I explore identity, narrative, and visibility. The installation speaks of a new space of narrative construction. This new emergence from the waters is not individual, but collective, where the glass spheres that symbolize creative power in my work allude to the stories and tales of women who built the lives of so many others. The strength and vulnerability present in glass spheres allude to that particular moment of calm that precedes action. The translucent material merges the work with the environment that surrounds it. I created this installation for the Palm Beach Biennial and was awarded the first prize. It was placed close to a 99-acre lake, and later that year, The Birth of Venus was exhibited at the Bellevue Outdoor Sculpture Exhibition from June through October. This time, the work was installed in a pool just in front of the renovated City Hall. Since 2008, the work has been on view at Griffith Sculpture Park in Rome, New York. The installation consists of 16 cast glass spheres. The spheres were cast at John Lewis Glass in Oakland, California. And John Lewis Glass produced also the ice falls in the Hearst Tower at 57th Street and 8th in New York. I use glass in other works, not as a single medium, but combined with other materials like plastic tubes or wooden furniture. In some of my installations, there are glass vases intertwined with plastic tubes. I take the vases as containers of memories. They hold the memories inside, but at the same time allow them to flow free. And these are a few images of Spain, because now we're going to the Spanish artists. Javier Gomez. Javier Gomez is the Spanish glass sculptor with the longest career in international recognition. He's a self-taught artist who had his first contact with glass in his family's industrial glass workshop in 1971, where he learned the techniques of industrial glass, which later formed the basis of his subsequent artistic development. Javier and the Alcorcón City Council are founders of the MAVA Museum of Arte Contemporáneo and Video de Alcorcón in the metropolitan area of Madrid, where he's the museum's lifelong artistic advisor. The Pedro Bernardo City Council, Avila, Spain, created the MEVGJ, that's the Javier Gomez Museum of Glass Sculpture, that is dedicated to his works. His works involve elements such as light, optical effects, color, etc. Each sculpture can take 2 to 3 months to be completed, an enormous physical effort. He works with float glass, colored resins, and cold working. Each piece has its own mystery, its own expressiveness. Each work has multiple readings and 1,000 ways of looking at it, rotating it, marking a play of light. He is passionate about creating interior spaces that dialogue with the exterior. It is something one and multiple due to the varied points of view and aspects that each piece acquires. His work is present in 25 outstanding museums around the world. Estudio Martín Rojas. This is
Sí, it's okay. Francisco Martín
Yes?
García. Yes.
Okay, that's his name. So the Martín Rojas studio, located in Guadalajara, Spain, is a family workshop dedicated since 1990 to the creation of sculptures in cast glass. In the sculptural process, traditional techniques are combined and developed with other avant-garde ones, obtaining unique pieces of great beauty and balance. The family that makes up the Martín Rojas studio makes glass sculpture that with pure and stripped forms convey the beauty of a material that never ceases to amaze us. All these works are the result of years of research and passion. Through exploration of various techniques, they have achieved forceful but subtle pieces with which manage to capture and transform the magical light that passes through them.
Everything on my list for today, including writing to Audrey, writing.
The work team is made up of Francisco Martin, Diego Martin, and David Martin, all sons of the founders, as a homogeneous and multidisciplinary group in which they all master very varied artistic glass techniques and is focused on the creation of glass sculpture with hot glass techniques, including casting, blowing, and roll up with cold working. Ferran Collado. Ferran is the heir to a family with a great stained glass tradition dating back to 1920. He grew up among this material. He lives and works in Barcelona, Spain. Always self-taught, he has acquired much of the knowledge of the techniques that he uses from the hand of his father and his grandfather in the family workshop. He's a multifaceted and subtle artist and a student of the various textures of glass. He mixes different techniques ranging from blown glass, artistic carving, and mirror silvering to restoration of unique pieces in glass. He specialized in different techniques and traveled to Europe and to the United States to perfect them, working in various studios under the guidance of the best contemporary glass artists. Today, he has his studio in Barcelona, where he explores all the techniques and resources acquired over the years and puts them at the service of designers, artists, restorers, decorators. He always had it very clear he loves to be a glass blower. Montserrat Duran Muntadas. Montserrat is a Catalan artist who has lived in Montreal, Canada since 2012. In 2007, she graduated with honors from the National Glass Center in Spain. In that same year, she was granted an internship at the Centre Européen de Recherche and the Training aux Arts Verrières in Vin-le-Châtel in France. Upon her arrival in Canada in 2012, she was able to combine her two greatest passions for conceptual art and glass, as well as dedicate her time to create sculptures and installations. Upon her arrival in Canada, she was able to combine, I'm reading that again. In her current project, My Beautiful Children and Other Anomalies, she questions motherhood and infertility. In doing so, she's exploring physical and psychological anomalies as she reflects on the feminine condition and the obligation to experience motherhood in order to be considered a real and whole woman. It all started with a change, an inner transformation. At the age of 13, Montserrat was diagnosed with a uterine malformation that endangered her fertility, as well as the potential to live as a normal woman. But what is a woman? Normal these days? That is the underlying question that her work reflects on. This series is made up of sculptural pieces and installations that combine blown glass, flame blown glass, intermittently screen printed fabrics, numerically embroidered fabrics, and fabrics designed by other artists with whom she closely collaborates. Her work spans from a vibrant and colorful artistic language influenced by her country of origin, Spain, and the quiet sovereignty of her adopted one, Canada. By contrasting multiple textures, bright colors, and themes with deep resonances, she's giving visibility to the things that go unnoticed in everyday life. Luis Paredes, the Asturian artist, tells stories, captures times, and creates poetry through the glass. Paredes finds inspiration in everything that evokes a story and can be represented. He's passionate about architecture and nature, the sea, the glaciers, mountains, and rivers. His latest works, Historias Sumergidas, submerged stories, are a tribute to the people that had to abandon their houses in towns that were flooded, villages in his region that were desolated, submerged in time. Luis Paredes achieves with a great mastery of technique, which ranges from thermoforming, casting, glass paste, sandblasting, polishing, engraving, faceting, or roll up, to create lost worlds, suspended spaces, frozen moments in pieces intertwined between fortuitous and refined technique that is enhanced by precise lighting. His work is in private collections in Spain, in the United States, Japan, and Lebanon. Kim Falcó and Meritxell Tembleque. They are a couple of Catalan artists. She was born in Barcelona and he was born in Girona. They met in 1992 at the Fundación Celta del Vidre in Barcelona, choosing glass as a material to express their art, and from that moment on, they have worked together. For this couple, glass represents, like no other material, the constant flow and transformation of matter. They live their work in an extreme extension of nature. They are interested in the feeling of unity. They feel glass as an expression of the polarity of nature, the solid and the liquid, the permanent and impermanent, as a paradox of the world, a flow and constant change. In their works, they often turn their handwriting into sculpture material. Word after word and layer upon layer, they create glass volumes with handwritten text, such as stone blocks or wooden logs for sculpting. The transparency of the glass itself makes it difficult or impossible to understand the message, revealing the mystery that exists in all things in ourselves. Rafa Abdon. Rafa Abdon was born in the town of Olleria in Valencia, Spain, a town with a tradition of glass blowing of more than 5 centuries from a glass blower's family. His first contact with blown glass is in the family business, where he trained as a glassmaker when he was only 15 years old. He remembers that in the early years, he did not go out on Saturday nights to the disco with friends because he preferred to stay in the factory experimenting with glass. Abdon seeks to capture the expression of a feeling, showing the characteristics of the human condition. He finds death as a source of inspiration because it is part of people's lives. All this is done with a great command of the technique of blowing by hand from the inside and outside of each piece. He became a glassmaster a few years later and took a couple of monographic courses with Japanese and North American masters at the Real Fábrica de Cristales in Segovia, Spain. He worked in several factories after the family business closed due to the crisis and globalization of the markets. From this point, he began to work on his own, renting blowing workshops for days to do both his personal work and to carry out commercial works for luxury brands. Currently, he's finishing his own workshop in Gandia, Valencia. Josep San Juan. Josep San Juan is a Valencian artist who began working with glass in the early 80s. In continuous learning, he handles various techniques of fusion, casting, 3D with flowed glass, and casting. He has made more than 50 glass installations in architecture, among which he highlights his productions for the Sagrada Familia in Barcelona. San Juan combines glass with light and shadows, making an idea of identity appear in full development. They are monolithic and organic pieces that form the heart of the sculpture that fits as a matrix, the smallest parts that emerge from them in the form of alive extremities that give the impression of being, like memories, capturing information to decide where to grow. And this was our last artist from Spain. And now we're open to any questions you may have.
Thank you so much, both Maria and Lucia. I do have a question that someone put into the chat box. What are some of the major teaching institutions in Argentina who teach glass?
In Argentina is the es la Escuela del Vidrio de Berazategui. For the pandemic is closed. In Córdoba, in the same center of the country, here one university. In the University of Art, take glass by no the great way.
So most of the teachings in universities there?
No, the way of the United States.
Not the way, okay. Different.
No.
A long way in that time anyway. Does anyone have any questions they would like to ask these people from Argentina?
Yes, I do.
Okay, Diane, go for it.
Okay. In the earlier, I think an Argentinian artist by the name of Andrea da Ponte, she had some, a number of her works were circular, they were blown glass, and they had a lot of writing on them, it looked like. I couldn't tell, I think the writing was in a different language. Would you know what more about the writings that she included in her work?
Maria? La pregunta es sobre la escritura en la obra de Andrea da Ponte. ¿En qué
Sí.
idioma están? Y si sabes a qué se refieren.
No, sí, está en español y son diferentes temas. Muchas veces o sea, lo que ella más trabaja es con el tema de los mapas. Los mapas, los cielos, las constelaciones, eso es lo que a ella más la representa.
Gracias. Yeah, gracias.
Gracias a ti.
Just for the others, if you don't speak Spanish, it's Andrea da Ponte, because Diane, I know you understood Maria Spanish, but Andrea Ponte, the writing, her work is in Spanish and related to constellations and maps of the sky.
Now, most of these artists are not represented in the United States, I assume. Sylvia maybe, and maybe Andrea, but I think that's about it. Although you have worked in New York, Lucia?
I've worked in New York and I've lived for 10 years in New York.
Okay, so that, you know, there's this parallel glass universe that we're not always as conscious of, but is equally as vibrant as anything here. So it's just wonderful to have a kind of a glimpse into that there. I'm hoping that in 2025, you all have a 25th anniversary of Glass in Argentina show at a museum. It would be spectacular. I mean, what has been accomplished in Argentina in 20 years is pretty astounding.
We hope so. I think like artists, María, ¿querés decir algo sobre artistas argentinos en el futuro en Argentina?
No, yo lo que pienso es que acá hay una gran movida de vidrio, hay artistas que hace más de 20, 25 años que trabajan con el material y que esta oportunidad que nos están dando de mostrarlo, estamos súper agradecidos y es muy valiosa para nosotros.
So Maria says that there are many artists in Argentina that have been working in glass for 20 or 25 years, and they are very grateful that they have this opportunity, and Maria had this opportunity to show them to you, because it's difficult for artists to travel abroad and show their works in other parts of the world.
So are there glass collectors in Argentina or Spain?
No,
No.
no, no, no específico, como hay en Estados Unidos, no.
So most of the glass collectors are concentrated in the United States or Europe or North America. Okay.
Yes.
A tough thing to do. Well, we're glad that we could present it here. If anyone has any other questions they'd like to know about the work before we say goodbye today, you can always contact Aaron at Habitat or Maria. Maria, is your information, can you put your email into the chat box? And then that way people can contact whoever they'd like. Also, Jack commented that Montserrat's work is in Montreal because she lives there now. And I've seen her work as well too. So it's some of the artists are getting some exposure, which we're happy about.
And Tim, Robin Levin had a good question. She wanted to know whether or not all of these works that we saw very quickly and the names very quickly are going to be put someplace in one place, one binder, a book or something like that.
Yes,
Aaron, might you be doing that?
They're going to be on YouTube. This talk is permanently on YouTube, so you can go back and review this talk at any given time.
Lucía, a mí me gustaría, perdón, Aaron, que les preguntes después con Tim qué es lo que les pareció a ellos, si tenían conocimiento de algún artista y eso, qué impresión se llevan de esta muestra.
Okay, Maria is asking, this is a question to you all. If you knew any of these artists, and what is, now that you've seen a little bit of this great artist in Argentina, what is your impression?
You have some wonderful collectors here that can answer that because they know glass inside and out. In fact, I was looking at several of these thinking of people who are collecting here and actually thought, wow, that looks like a piece from their collection. So I can't speak for everyone. If anyone wants to jump in and give any feedback to Maria and Lucia, a good time. And there we go. Go ahead, Myra.
Everyone. Hi, Tim. Hi, everyone. We were
Hi.
just saying if we didn't have a collection, what a great time it would be to start. And they are amazing, amazing, fabulous work.
Thank you.
Never knew about these artists, and that's why it's exciting to be exposed to them now.
Thank you
Beautiful.
very
Some
much.
of them were like we must know these people. I mean, right? I mean, this work, we must know this work. It's being produced in the world that we live in, and we know every single piece made in the United States of Europe we know all of them, and yet here's a whole collection of work that we have not seen before. Aaron, are you sending out anything to people?
I have a copy of the PowerPoint. I'll speak with, put together a little slide presentation, but mostly this will be on YouTube. And if you want to see specific images again, just let me know at any time. And if I can figure out a way to get the PowerPoint into a way I can just send it to people to scroll through, I will figure that out.
Lucia, what's the name of the Spanish artist who was doing cast glass work?
What kind of cast glass?
The question in the audience was, who was the Spanish artist doing cast glass work? I don't
Garcia,
know.
maybe? Francisco Garcia?
¿Quién es María que hace, un artista español que hace cast glass?
Okay, maybe, and Jerry and Gwen, just review this again. You'll kind of see it.
Y Michelle hacen cast glass. Sí, ellos hacen.
¿Puedes repetir el nombre?
Kim Michelle y también Josep San Juan también hace cast glass.
Francisco Garcia.
That's something to ask.
There you go. All right.
Probably all over the place.
Okay, so there we go. There's a quick presentation of Argentinian glass.
Go back and look at these.
Yo si me deja me despido en mi inglés, que no es muy bueno, pero me despido.
Okay, go ahead,
Okay.
María.
Thank you very much, team, and the Art Alliance for Contemporary Glass for this wonderful invitation. I want to say thanks for the new space. I hope this is the first of many meetings that will allow me to continue presenting artists from Iberoamerica. Thank you to all who participate, to the artists who trust me to represent them, to Lucia for her great help, to Tim for thinking of me for the presentation, and to the AACG for this great opportunity. Many of the beautiful pieces that you have seen are for sale. Feel free to contact Aaron or me for the information, and you can see the address in the chat. Thank you very much.
I thank you so much. Wonderful job, Maria. Wonderful job, Lucia. And we appreciate it.
Great, thank you.
Thank you guys. That was great. Wonderful work. Beautiful stuff.
Thank you. Bye.
Everybody later.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you
Great
so
weekend.
much.
Stay dry.
Bye bye.